right. Well, hello and welcome back to the Wives Club. My name is Margaret. I am just like you. I am a patron of Mr. Kevin Samuels in the Atlanta area. I simply booked a session with Kevin to ask for his permission to stand up a community of like-minded and marriage-minded women within the privacy of his Patreon group. And I'm so thankful. Not only did Kevin give us his permission, he actually came up with the name, The Wives Club. So what we do each week is we react to Kevin's shows. We bring our own life experience and lessons learned. This is our way of paying it forward and increasing our own outcomes. I'm a former wife, and I'll let the other wives introduce themselves.
I am a patron and also a future wife from the Boston area, and looking forward to today's conversation.
Wonderful. And Lisa, please introduce yourself.
I'm a current wife. I'm also a patron, and I'm so happy to be back.
All right, absolutely. Okay, ladies, I thought it'd be fun to do something a little bit different this week, kind of a challenge for me, but Kevin, there's so much going on and there's so much good content that we could cover, but I've noticed in a few shows from the past, Kevin had asked some of the guests, who is your relationship ideal? And I know a lot of us, and some of us who come from good family examples, that's kind of the first thing, whether you have it or you don't, to say, oh, my mom or my grandma, someone like that. But Kevin challenged them to think about someone in the public, doesn't have to be a celebrity, but someone that you can think of and say, that is what I would want my relationship to be like. And, the challenge sometimes is that there weren't too many good examples for our current time. I know Kevin often talks about like Coretta Scott King, Dorothy Dandridge, some of our elegant ladies from the past. But I was thinking about this and I was like, man, if I had to pick a modern day couple that I could look at their relationship and say, that is the type of relationship or marriage that I would want to emulate, who would I pick? So I thought we'd do a round robin. I'll start and tell you the who and tell you the why. Of course, first, my own parents. So I'm thankful for the example that I had.
Can I ask real quick, Maggie?
Yeah.
Is it a real life couple or like a couple we seen like the Cosby Show or something? Which one?
You know what? Pick whoever you like. I'm not going to put
just making sure.
Yeah. But I think the only thing is that somebody who, if we called them out, people would know who that was, not just like your family member. Okay, so my first example is Cookie Johnson, and she is the wife of Magic Johnson. And when I look at their relationship, they've been together for decades, and we all know the story, unfortunately, tragic story, about what happened to Magic Johnson. But specifically what I love about Cookie, I've seen only a few interviews with her. We know that she has a very high profile, man, but she has been a very consistent support system for him through something that I don't know if I or anybody else that I know of could really, hang in there. And what I love, every time you see Cookie Johnson, she seems pleasant, she seems happy. And look, real life happens to real people. And I think it was an Oprah interview or something where, she had talked about when she finally got the news that, her husband was HIV positive and, how that was going to affect their relationship. It's going to be changed forever, how they're going to have to be with each other. And she talked about, falling up on the floor and crying and, kind of shouting at the moon and just being angry. I can't even imagine that. That was her moment. She had that real moment. But now when we see her, we know her as Magic Johnson's wife. She's, I had to Google it to kind of find out, like, what does she do? She's an author. She's got a foundation. Bottom line, she has her own passion projects that keep her occupied and keep her fulfilled. I don't see her as trying to take, Magic Johnson's limelight, but when he needs her, she's there. And that would be my first example of the type of marriage that I would want to emulate in a relationship with a high value man, being consistent, being pleasant, but being his piece. So I would say my first would be Cookie and Magic Johnson. So
awesome. Thank you, Maggie. So it was so tough to think about this because like, sometimes you can have people that are in the spotlight and people that are not. But I think the relationships that we don't know about are the best ones, right? Because that means people are not putting their business out there. You don't know anything about it. And it's about discretion. Like you'll hear Kevin kind of talk about discretion a lot lately, right? So because I'm from the Northeast, I'm going to go with Tom Brady and Giselle, right? And that's because they've been together for so long. Giselle knows who Tom Brady is, even though she was a supermodel. You haven't been hearing about her because she's been kind of taking care of her family. And I think they have a few kids now. So it's one of those type of relationships where you have two high profile people, but you don't see one trying to overtake the other. The man is still kind of in that spotlight as the best quarterback that has ever lived, you know? So I had to go through that. I remember the Patriots days. I don't know about where he is now, I'm just saying, but I would say that would be the first example that I would use.
You know, that I didn't think about that one. That's a really good one. And I love that. Now, I have to admit, from Atlanta, a little bit of a sore spot, you know, Tom Brady and the Patriots, but you got to give the man credit for what he's done. But I really love that example. How many of us say we're a 10? I've said for a long time, I consider myself average, but this is actually a woman who was probably the closest to a 10 because of the outcomes, right? She was a highly paid model, one of the most that we all know who she is, but since she decided to become, you know, wife and mother, everything that you've seen since that has been family focused. So I think that's a great example. All right, Lisa, I'm coming to you. Who do you have?
This is hard for me, but I thought about one of my favorite actors as a child growing up. So I was like, Samuel L. Jackson. And I was like, I don't know nothing about his wife, but I was like, okay, let me check. And I talked to my husband about it. And so I was like, his wife is named, I don't really know her, LaTanya Richardson Jackson. And they've been married since like 1980. So that means that was even before they were married before he even did Coming to America. So I think they have one daughter, and it said that she's an actress, like she's done Broadway, a few movies, but it really just lets me know like what she does compared to what he does. She really lets her husband shine, and I am a big fan of all his work. So, and like I said, I didn't know much about her. Couldn't even tell you what she looked like, what her name was, but and I asked my husband, you ever heard any scandals with Samuel L. Jackson and his wife, the kids, or anything? He's like, no. I'm like, okay, well, as far as what I know, what's online, she sounds like a pretty stand-up wife. You know, she's always at the awards with him and stuff. Looks very supportive. And like the main thing is just letting her husband shine, letting her husband be great. Like I always say, because when your husband's great, you're taken care of, you're being provided for, and your life is good. So that's just a big thing for me. I'm like, when you let your husband be great, when you let him lead. So I think this pretty much is a good example. Hopefully it stays that way, but you never know. But I mean, we all have our issues, even myself. So, but if we can get back up, dust ourselves off, reevaluate and say, hey, we need to get back here. We need to fix something. And hopefully it'll be a blessing to someone else saying, you know, we had these problems, but we were able to accomplish or get through it and get back to where we were or do better. So to say all that is just that I think from what I've learned and looked up to answer the question that was put up for today, mine would be Samuel L. Jackson and his wife. So y'all can go research him some more. And I hope I'm not wrong, but that's where I'm going to leave it because this is a very hard question. I don't even know what I'm going to do for the next one, but let's go.
That was amazing. I'm going to give you my response to that, but it makes me think of the, oh gosh, it escapes me. The actor that had the TV show, he was Saturday Night Live and he left and went to Africa.
Dave Chappelle.
Yes, exactly. So when you were saying Samuel,
that's another one. Yeah, his wife. She's another one. Oh my God, that's a good one. That is a great one. You can have that one for next. Absolutely. But when you said Samuel L. Jackson, what struck me is Samuel L. Jackson, great actor, big personality, right? Same thing with, you know, Dave Chappelle, actor, comedian, you know, big personality.
what I love is that, and again, we don't know Samuel L. Jackson's wife or what she does, but you haven't seen her trying to change him. He's just as, y'all know, he's funny. Sometimes he can be a little bit, buck wild or whatever, but she lets him be who he is. And that has worked for him. I mean, look, every time we see Capital One commercial or movie, we know who he is, and she doesn't try to change him. I think, especially as we get older, and I've shared, being one of the oldest one in the group, we all kind of get set in our ways. And I think, people are who you are. And I think when you find somebody that, what does Kevin say? You're crazy doesn't make me crazy. It's like we all have our quirks. We all have our ticks and clicks. But when you find somebody that lets you just rock out in your space, it's amazing. So I love that about Samuel L. Jackson. The second one for me, in that same vein, I had to look up, because likewise, Lisa, what I love is that when you know the celebrities and you find out they've been married for ages and you don't even know who that person is, I think that speaks volumes. So the second one for me is Pauletta Washington, Mrs. Denzel Washington. And I had to look her up again. This beautiful woman is 71 years old. They've been together for decades. And what I learned about Pauletta, the reason why it really strikes me, she's kind of known in the Black Hollywood circles as kind of the mom of Hollywood. She's very nurturing. If you guys remember Chadwick Boseman, God rest his soul, I found out, he had a connection with Denzel, who sponsored him for an acting thing. And Pauletta is known for, when young Black actors come on the scene, she kind of takes them under their wing. They'll come to visit Denzel and kind of, sit at his feet. She sends them home with food and sandwiches and gives them a little, travel money to put in their pocket. And for me, that just really resonates, because I'm kind of like the Kool-Aid mom. Like, I love on, people and the kids and hosting and what I do. And, I've seen Miss Pauletta, in a few interviews, and she's also just happy and pleasant. She knows that her husband is, this great actor and a sex symbol to a lot of women, and she lets that be, because she knows the foundation and the solidness, I don't even know if that's a word, of the relationship that they have. One fun fact I didn't know, when they met, they both were up and coming actors on the Broadway scene. And I didn't know that Pauletta was actually, I won't say better, but like doing better or had more reviews or whatever. Her star was starting to shine when they met. I think I heard that Denzel actually ran out of money on their first date. I don't know where they went, but they went on the date, and I think he paid for it, but it was either the taxi or something at the very end that he didn't have, and she had to spot him, for it. How many women now, even when you have a good guy, if he can't do everything and pay your bills and whatnot, you write him off as dusty. I think that's so unfortunate. So for me, that's just a very heartwarming story. And look, whatever taxi fare that she paid back in that day, I'm sure has paid off in droves. She's raised a family for him. And to me, that would be my second relationship ideal. So over to you.
That's such a good one. And it's like a really underrated one. I'm really happy that you brought that one up. Sticking with Boston, sorry guys, I'm going to go with a classic, and this is Jackie O and JFK. So the thing is with Kevin, he talks about feminine assets all the time. And sometimes these marriages, you can go through some challenging things, right? So JFK, Jackie O, classic couple. It wasn't the best marriage from what we've seen in documentaries and things like that after the fact. Like, we saw that, when they got together, Jackie was a compliment, like a huge compliment for JFK, as far as his career aspirations, as far as being that political wife and still having that poise. And she's like a fashion icon, right? And, unfortunately, it didn't end well for Mr. JFK, but, it's one of those things where we saw someone's heart breaking in the middle of, something super challenging. So I think of her as a feminine asset. She ended up getting married again and having such a long life and a huge family after the fact. But it was something that came to mind because not all of it's going to be happiness and roses and rainbows. Like marriages are challenging, right? So I thought that this was an important one to bring up. But that would be the second example.
Oh, thinking about that one. And yes, God rest both of their souls. But just growing up, in school, and we all hear the history of what happened in Dallas, to JFK. And the visual that I have of Jackie O in that pink blood-stained dress and how she kept it together. Can you imagine having small children and your husband is taken like that for the whole world to see? And like you said, Evelyn, any documentary that you will see, what I learned, we know Jack Kennedy was a man's man, but you never saw Jackie O, come out of character. She would withdraw if she needed to and deal with things privately. Even after he died, how she kept, his legacy. And you're right, I didn't know this, but when Jack Kennedy met and, married her, she was a socialite. She was fluent in French. We all know about the fashion, and he was kind of that, I'm trying to say this delicately, but I don't know if Yankee is pejorative, but she kind of, softened him. And when they traveled, I think, to Paris, and she spoke another language. It's like nobody knew that about her because she didn't lead with, hey, I do this and I do that. I'm a photographer, I'm this and that. She just kind of let things unfold naturally. And I thought that was beautifully elegant. Excellent example. Okay, Lisa, what else do you have?
Growing up in college and stuff, in high school, people would say when you, I want to say my home ec teacher was talking about stuff like this. She's like, be elegant, like Jackie O. She gave us this example. She gave us other examples, but I remember that being one of them. How she was so poised at the funeral and even at other events and stuff, how she carried herself around royalty and stuff like that. And so she's like, let's emulate. I just remember my home economics teacher saying that. So I said it was a classroom full of girls, of course. And then what Margaret was saying about Denzel's wife, she was in A Time to Kill as the mother with Samuel L. Jackson in that movie. She played the mother. And I hope I'm right. I'm pretty sure I'm right, that she played the mother in A Time to Kill. But to go back to the initial question, Dave Chappelle, I'm going to use that one. So I looked up his wife. His wife is named Elaine Chappelle. They've been married since 2001. They have 3 kids, I believe. And the reason I know a lot about Dave Chappelle is because my husband loves Dave Chappelle. And what else? And she's Filipino, and he talks about her in his shows. So you know a lot about the relationship based on what he talks about in his shows and stuff. But I hardly any pictures on the internet of her. You can't find any pictures of his wife. Just about. There might be a few of him and her and the kids, but I remember doing a search for her like maybe 5 or 6 years ago, and I couldn't find a picture. I was like, what does she look like? Because he was describing her in his show. But there are probably pictures now. I didn't look them up, but you never see her. She exists. He talks about them. I think you probably see more of the pictures of his kids. He's got 2 sons and a daughter, but you really never see her. And my husband's like, yeah, that's the way it's supposed to be. I remember him talking about it one time. He's like, yeah, that's the way you're supposed to be. So my husband's right on with this. He's like, let him, I know y'all hate me for this. Let him lead, let him be great. And I think she's doing that and enjoying the benefits of it. So I'm just like, I'll say that for myself. When I stop trying to steer the wheel, when I stop trying to early in my marriage, trying to be equal partners and just let my husband be the head, everything was just so much better. So I hope I hope I'm letting people know that when, let your husband lead, let your man lead. And when you do, you'll find that you have a much easier time with it. Because I'm not going to say I was modern too. I still have modern tendencies. I'll put it that way. But, staying, listening to Kevin and being around like-minded women like here on the show, it reminds you of, you know what? Let me do better. So I'm not going to say I don't have those tendencies from time to time, because we all do. We do. But things like doing this and talking about it helps refresh us and helps bring us back to where we need to be. So hope that helps everyone out there.
Yes, that is so helpful. And Lisa, you're absolutely right. I'm the first one to say, I'm a divorcee because I was that modern woman. And I remember my ex-husband, a quote, he said, well, I thought you were driving this bus. And that was a light bulb moment for me because, Kevin talks about being out there first like a crash test dummy. We can do so much, yes, but just know that you're going to have to do everything all the way to the end. And I'll be the first one to say at 46, we all start to slow down. Now, thankfully, I'm in a relationship with a high value man who is out front and leading. And what I thought would kind of be like, oh no, I'm back here in the shadows. Y'all, it is so wonderful and such a relief to not have that burden to make all of the decisions. Just understand you get to choose whatever relationship that you're in. But from those of us who have reformed, listen to our life lessons. But you're right, Lisa. I remember looking up Dave Chappelle's wife, and the only pictures I saw of her, she's with the kids. They may be walking or shopping or whatever, but you never see her posing or having to be out front. And there's nothing wrong with that, but just as we give these examples of relationships, I think the theme or the red thread is we're having to look these women up, or we kind of know about them, but it's like, what have they done lately? They don't have to be, front and center. And there's been a lot happening, and we all know what happened with Will Smith and Jada. And, I'm just at a point where it's like, I don't know if I have anything different to offer as far as an opinion. That's why I wanted to kind of change it from what's wrong to what could be, right, and look at what is working well. So, the last thing that I'll close out with, a third one that I thought of, Camilla Parker Bowles and Prince Charles, because of the sacrifice when it comes to the relationship. Kevin always talks about, marriage isn't about love, and I love love. But, I've shared with you all that I reconnected with someone from my past post-divorce because that there was a time when I was ready for a relationship and he was not. And now, like we've talked about, men take longer, but man, when you give them the time to get things together the way they want to see fit, I don't want to say partnership, but the partnering is just so much more smooth. So we know heavy is the crown. I'm not royal. None of us are royal. But when you learn about the story of the royal family, you don't just get to choose who you want because you love them, right? You have an obligation to the crown. You have an obligation to the country. And if you've seen any documentaries, Prince Charles, was kind of like, I don't know, maybe a late bloomer, a little maybe shy, awkward kid. And Camilla Parker Bowles was actually his first love. But I can't remember, maybe because I don't know her history, but she didn't come from, her pedigree was not acceptable for the royal family. And Queen Elizabeth basically told him he could not marry her, even though he wanted to and he loved her. We all know the story. He ended up marrying Princess Diana. She died tragically. And I'm not sure, I believe Camilla Parker Bowles maybe married someone else and had children, but in their golden years, long after Diana passed, and I think he waited another 8 to 10 years for the boys to come of age. And then now, finally, he is able to marry the woman that he loves, and she's able to be with the man that she loves. But again, you see them at royal events, but you don't hear anything about them. She is not, of course they're older, but she's not like, yeah, I should have been here from the beginning. She appreciates the time that she has. She understood and respected the decision. And we all know, during the marriage, Prince Charles, there were rumors and maybe even confirmed rumors, and, that was painful, but I have not seen her do anything to lessen his responsibility to his family and to the country. So that would be my final.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And just on the same topic, because you just reminded me of this, thinking about like, royalty, things like that. Another good one is the King and Queen of Spain. So Queen Letizia in Spain, she actually was like a news anchor for many years, right? And then all of a sudden she became the Queen of Spain. You know, it's like one of those things. But I think when you really have that connection with somebody, it's really hard to kind of keep your family obligations out of it, right? So that's another example. But I thought this conversation was super fun. And hopefully it gives you guys some ideas, right? Because we're starting to see this theme when Kevin asked. A lot of people are like, I don't know. I don't know. So this is a really, really fun conversation. So Maggie, thanks for putting it together.
You're so welcome. And Lisa, any final thoughts from you before we close out?
No, again, I think this was a good question. It got me thinking. It got me looking up stuff. And hopefully it'll do the same for our viewers out there. And so, I've enjoyed this. This was fun.
Wonderful. Well, we definitely thank you all for watching. And again, here in the Wives Club, we want to improve all of our outcomes, increase the pool of marriage-minded women. And, I will take the challenge whenever Kevin asks a question that kind of gives me that deer in the headlights look. I'm going to do the work and bring it here so that we can talk about it and try to promote things that are actually happening. But unfortunately, the louder voices out there are not the ones that I think we want to emulate as wives. And I've always said, whether you're currently married or formerly married or want to be married, I think being a wife is a mindset. So hopefully this was helpful. We definitely enjoy doing this for you guys, and we'll see you on the next episode of the Wives Club. Bye for now.